In times of great calamity and destruction and fear, she comes to us to hold our hand, to let us know that all is well, to answer our prayers, and to guide us through synchronistic messages and signs towards our heart's desires. And today we're going to hear about the way of the rose, the radical path of the divine feminine hidden in the Rosary by the co-authors Strand and Perdita Finn. And join us to hear this beautiful transmission of love.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we come together and we talk about all things essence. We explore the mysteries of what it is we're doing here on this little blue dot in the middle of a cosmic ocean. And we come together as human beings on planet Earth to talk about life and our existence. I'm your host, Kerri Hummingbird. And I love to come here week after week and open up dialogue, open up conversations about things that probably are on our hearts, but we may not have the people in our lives to talk about it with. And we can talk about it here. And this provides a space for all of us to come together and talk about what makes us the most human, what actually gives us the most hope, the most grace, the most love as we move through our life experiences. And as many of you know, I think it was 2023, I wrote a book called Inner Medicine, Becoming One with Mother Earth for the Survival of Humanity. And when I channeled the title, I thought that's quite dramatic. Like, really? Is it really like that? And over time, as I've walked the path of that book and I've embodied it, and I've deepened into my connection with Mother Earth, and I've really realized the importance of that message and the importance of connecting with that divine mother energy so that we can come back into right relationship as human beings, right relationship on the planet with each other, with all of life. And yeah, so I stumbled upon and actually was referred by one of my students to this blessed beings that are sitting here with us today. And initially I wasn't ready for the call. I wasn't ready for this conversation until recently. And all of a sudden it synchronously popped right back up in front of me. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever had that happen before, where you get the sign and you're like, I should have this conversation. And then, I don't know, weeks or years go by and you don't have it. And then it comes back. It says now. And then when you actually get the now that's actually now, and you know it's now, like it's the choiceless choice, like this is happening now, here it is. And I feel like there's no time better for this conversation on our planet and also on Soul Nectar Show. And so I'm glad that you guys are all here with us. And I want to introduce you to Perdita Finn and her husband, Strand. Welcome to the show. So grateful you guys are here.
Kerri. Yeah,
It's wonderful to be here.
It's so fun. I was telling them it's so fun to hear your voices because I listened to the Audible of their book. Their book is called The Way of the Rose. And it's a powerful, powerful book about connection with our Divine Mother that's known by many names across the whole globe. And my version of it has been through the studying with the Huixoteca peoples in Mexico and their honoring of Tenochtitlan, the goddess Tenochtitlan, the mother goddess. And so I've got Tenochtitlan all over my house, burning candles everywhere on all the altars, right? Like she's in my everywhere. And I've actually seen her come through in sacred ceremony and wondered did I just see that? She just walked down like this staircase into the room. Wow, this is cool. Here she is. And having these moments of mystical connection, but maybe not trusting myself. And So, and then I started wearing these mala beads years ago. Anybody else have mala beads out there? You got mala beads, or you got rosary beads, you have beads around your neck. You know why I want these beads around my neck? We're going to find out today why you want those beads. This is why you're called to these beads. And so, very, very powerful conversation we're going to have today. Perdita and Clark actually co-authored this book and have both had incredibly mystical experiences of their own, but then combined. And they actually co-facilitate a community. They co-founded Fellowship, the Way of the Rose, which is really, and I'll let them talk about it, but it's really a way to simplify spirituality, like simplify this. Let's make it easy to pray. Let's make it easy to connect with the Great Mother and to ask for what we want. So that we're going to have that conversation today. I'm really excited by it. And I just welcome you both here to the show.
Well, thanks for having us on. I love your malas. They're so beautiful. You know, it was after we had written the book, actually, that I had a revelation about beads after the book was written. Now, here I was, I grew up as an atheist bohemian, and then I was a Buddhist, and here I am praying the rosary, not entirely sure why. And one day I'm looking at my rosary saying, what is it? And I was feeling the beads, and I invite listeners to do the same and you to do the same, Kerri, which is find a bead on your body. You might have a bead, you might have a button. If you don't have a bead, you don't have a button. Take a bit of cloth and roll it between your fingers, or just imagine you're rolling something between your forefinger and your thumb. And notice how it makes your body feel. And the reason our species, Homo sapiens, has been making beads since the very beginning has to do with that feeling beads give us in our body. They have found beads in Morocco that are 150,000 years old. We've been making beads for as long as we've been human beings, before religion, before priests, before ideologies, before nations, before any spiritual practice that we know. We were making beads. And so the thing I always ask people is, why do you think we've done that? Because that was the question I asked. Why does that feel so good? We have fidget spinners for that gesture. Why does it feel so good? Do you have a clue? Do you have any ideas?
Well, I think it's the nipple, but
that's it. On the nose.
First try. Very good.
Most people just try to say that. And it's so funny because what happens, that's our first gesture as babies to our mother. If we can do that to the nipple, if we can run the nipple, the milk lets down. And two hormones, Clark has written a great deal about this hormone. This hormone called prolactin lets down in the mother's body, and it lets down in the baby's body, and it creates a feeling of ease and peace. And it's the same hormone that birds experience when they're sitting on their eggs, and it's this attachment hormone.
Yeah. So, the Way of the Rose, the book we wrote, is the middle book in a trilogy. The first book is Waking Up to the Dark. I wrote that. The second we wrote together, The Way of the Rose, and the third is Take Back the Magic, written by Perdita. In that first book, I look at a thing I call the Hour of God, which is really, a term I came up with to describe something that has largely disappeared from the modern world. It was this gap hour in the middle of the night. Homo sapiens, for hundreds of thousands of years, used to sleep in 2 blocks. They would sleep for 4 hours, wake for 1 or 2 hours in the middle of the night, and then sleep for another 4. And it's only in the modern age that ancient pattern of sleep has been suppressed. So there was a guy in the scientist who discovered seasonal affective disorder, right, circadian rhythm, a man named Thomas Ware. He did an experiment in the 1990s where he took people off the street, took them off all forms of electric lighting to see what would happen. And within 30 days, they had every person in the study reverted to this ancient pattern of sleep. And what he noticed was that when they woke in the middle of the night, they didn't wake to their ordinary state of consciousness. The closest thing he could find to describe it was the state of consciousness experienced by meditators in a very, very deep state of meditation. For instance, if you went in and you sampled the hormones and the endocrinological chemicals at play in a person who is in deep meditation or in the middle of a meditation retreat, and you compared it to these people, they matched up perfectly. And that was because this hormone prolactin, which keeps mothers calm when they're nursing, babies calm when they're nursing, keeps birds on their nests, keeps us from moving when we're asleep so we don't hurt ourselves if we're dreaming. That hormone, when we wake up, normally goes straight down. It just plummets, right? But when people were waking up in the middle of the night, that hormone remained at sleep levels, but they were awake. So their bodies were incredibly peaceful and calm.
And what
they were wide awake.
We've discovered in praying the Rosary. I mean, I discovered the Rosary out of desperation as a young mother because it made me feel good, because it made me feel just like that. You know, I didn't have time to go sit on the Buddhist cushion anymore. I had 2 kids. I had 2 toddlers. And you know, and by the way, you know, mostly I was anxious and worried and overwhelmed and exhausted. And at night I would, you know, Clark, my Buddhist husband, taught me the Catholic Rosary because he's a spiritual adventurer. And, you know, the faith of my grandmother I'd been denied. And I started praying the Rosary. And I would feel that peace descend inexplicably with no effort. I didn't have to follow my breath. I didn't have to sync up my heartbeat with my mantra. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to hold on. And there's something about that magic of holding on to what you've rightly said is the nipple that makes us go, oh, everything's going to be all right. And that's why our ancestors made beads in climate catastrophes in ages past.
Right.
I mean, our ancestors have done, you know, genocide, climate change, all of these nightmares that we're currently experiencing. And their response was to hold on to the hand, the nipple of their mother.
Yeah. So somebody had the great idea about 10 or 15, or it really wasn't even an idea, it was like a question. You know, they would notice these old Catholic ladies, right, sitting in the back of the church, saying their rosary, right, while the priest droned on in Latin, right? And somebody had the idea, I wonder what's going on to their endocrinology. I wonder what's happening to their brain waves. We've tested the Tibetan lamas. Let's test the old Catholic ladies. So they did, and guess what? They found that they were through the Rosary, praying the Catholic Rosary with its mantra like prayers that set up a rhythm that basically tones the vagus nerve. They discovered that they were likewise getting into this very, very deep state of mind that once every human being on the planet experienced naturally in the middle of the night, but which now we access through yoga, through prayer, through meditation, through the Rosary.
I love all that. Yeah, it's true. It's like a lot of times people will think it's a problem that they woke up in the middle of the night. It's happened to me a few times, and I've experienced that peace you're talking about where I just sat up in bed and I was like, well, I guess I'm awake now. I'm going to sit and meditate and just be with this energy and see what's being asked of me in this moment. And inevitably I was concerned I was going to wake up the next day really tired, but didn't, you know. And
in fact, we're accessing a state of mind that we need for resilience during the day and that so many of us have lost, right?
yeah, it just, life goes so fast. And one of the things I love about your book is that you actually talk about the synchronicity, you know, living according to synchronicity. And it's something that I think a lot of people, maybe people in my audience know what we're talking about, but a lot of people around the world, in Western culture particularly, don't necessarily know what that means or what it's like, but it's kind of like a dream state. It's been described by some people recently in recent years as flow state, where you're basically in this kind of altered perception, this altered reality, and you're noticing that the world around you is alive. Actually, it's not inanimate, it's alive, and that it's being infused with life the way we are, the same, and that these signs show up, like these really interesting signs. And tell us about some of that you experienced, because I know you share a story or two in the book about following those synchronistic signs.
I think it's not so much a state that we need to talk ourselves into. As a faith, we have to relax into. And, you know, we are very much ruled in this culture by the economy of money. And, you know, our ancestors, however, lived in an economy of prayer. They prayed to find food. They prayed to find berries and herbs and mushrooms and fungi and healing plants. They prayed to find shelter for the night. They prayed to run into another group of people and find partners. You know, everything was prayer. And we've commodified everything. And what that has happened is we've forgotten how to pray. And I think the way I would describe it is Clark and I have tried to learn to live in an economy of prayer and faith. And a faith that is a mystery tradition that says, I don't know, we don't know what's going to happen. We know where to put our foot next. We know what we want. We know what star we're following in the darkness. But we're not in control.
Yeah.
And I think when there are two options in the world, and they are fear and faith. And how do we transform fear into faith? And how do we really, and that, I think that's our work in all the different things that we teach and do, is to help people make that transition into an economy of prayer.
You know, this is sort of where we live. I mean, we live in that world. Sometimes, you know, Perdita and I feel like, you know, when we're getting together with people who, you know, friends or, you know, various connections we get together with, professional relationships or whatever, oftentimes we feel like, you know, we live in a different world than they do. We don't really, of course, live in a different world. We live in the same world, but a world that is infused with faith, and as you mentioned, that acknowledges that the world is also alive, not just us, also sentient. And so there's this constant conversation going on, right, between us and the world. People who acknowledge that tend to experience life as deeply infused with meaning. We talked about synchronous events. I'll give one example from the book. When I first started praying the Rosary after the apparitions began in 2011, I decided that I wanted to get a really nice rosary that we would pass down in our family. I would give it to my son, Jonah, and he could pass it down. So it needed to be something durable and well-made and something sort of special. So I started shopping, as you can imagine, you know, really well-made silver and like onyx rosary or something like that.
I ought to say here that Clark grew up down in the deep South as a Presbyterian. He's an expat, left when he was 18, was on track to be the first Rinzai American Zen teacher in America, and then left and was a Buddhist magazine editor. So he doesn't really feel like he's got a rosary tradition, but here he is praying the rosary.
Here I am praying the rosary. So I always felt like I sort of like, you know, I wasn't even sure I deserved to have the rosary, you know, that I was entitled to pray because I wasn't brought up Catholic. So it was entirely appropriated, you know. So anyway, but I was praying it and I wanted my son to have it. And my son already knew the prayers because Perdita had taught them to the children when they were little. So they grew up with them. So I wanted him to feel like he owned a rosary that had been passed down. So anyway, so I, you know, decided that I wanted to order this rosary. So I found one, you know, that was affordable, but, you know, an antique on eBay, and I ordered. Okay. So a couple of nights later, my mother calls me and says, hey, your grandmother's 102. And she's finally reached the point she can't live alone anymore, and we're going to have to sell her house. And she says, is there anything you want from the house? And I was talking to Perdita, should I go down? You know, this house was so important to me as I was a little boy. I grew up there the first few years of life. And I was wrestling with that, and I had a dream. And in the dream, I'm with my mother, and we go into my grandmother's house. And she says, what do you want? And I go straight to the kitchen, to this drawer in the kitchen where my nanny, when I was a little boy, used to keep all my toys. She called it the boy drawer because it was where my uncle.
It wasn't a girl's drawer, by the way.
Yeah, there's a chapter called the boy drawer in The Way of the Rose that looked at the fact that there was no girl drawer. But anyway, my uncles had their toys in there. When I was little, I had my toys in there. And I opened the drawer in the dream, and there's this onyx and sterling silver rosary, right? there were all kinds of toys in this drawer when I was a little kid. I bought them all at this place called Benjamin Franklin's Five and Dime Store, where I would walk with my nanny downtown. It seemed like a long way, but there was really only about 4 blocks into town, and I would buy some little things and put them in the boy drawer. Okay. So in the dream, I pick up the rosary and I say to my mom, "We can go now. This is all I want." I wake up the next day. All right. So a couple of days later, I get a notice, an email from eBay saying your package has departed from Wynne, Arkansas, which is where my grandmother grew up, which is 8 miles from Forest City, where her house is. Okay?
A tiny.
Tiny little, I mean, Forest City is a tiny little town, and Wynne is really tiny little town.
And everyone there is related to Clark.
Yeah. So the rosary that I have ordered is coming from a vendor in Wynne, Arkansas. So I'm getting so many goosebumps. I'm getting that synchronous feeling, that being in the zone, in the flow. I can feel it. I can feel there's a whole level of reality that we're always, all of us are interacting with, but we rarely dip into, like where we rarely sort of like are able to experience these profound karmic interconnections, right? This relatedness. So anyway, I decide, well, what the hell? I've got the vendor's email address. I message her. Her name is Rose France. And she grew up in Forest City. And it turned out that her father was my grandmother's mechanic, Bud Clark. I remember that. Rose France. She was originally Rose Clark.
Clark is his name.
Yeah. So
Wow.
So now I'm really getting it, and I'm saying, "Well, how old are you?" And she says, "Turns out she's about 6 years older than I am." And she said, "Yeah, you might have, if you grew up in Forest City, you might have known me. I was the toy and cotton candy girl at Ben Franklin." So the woman who sold me the rosary on eBay, right, which was exactly when it arrived, was exactly the rosary I dreamed about, right, in my dream. She had been the girl who sold me the toys for the boy drawer when I was a little boy. And when the package arrived, it turned out she lived on Ellis Street. And when I asked her, I said, "Well, how do you live on Ellis Street?" She said, "Well, I'm descended from James Ellis." And I said, "So am I." I had despaired over not having a rosary that,
Had been in the family.
yeah, that it wasn't a family tradition. It wasn't something that was passed down to me, something I just picked up, but it turned out it was.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's that kind of stuff you just can't make up, you know? It's like
How do you get it to happen is one of the things. And people sometimes say to me like, and I think one of the ways that it begins to happen is we live from inside our hearts instead of inside our heads.
Yeah.
And the more we live in our hearts, like Clark, this whole story begins out of Clark's heart's desire to be able to bequeath the rosary to our son,
Yeah.
and to begin to create a family tradition of prayer and of connection and intimacy. And I think, when the lady first started showing up, one of the things she said is, "What do you want?" It was like the question of a fairy in a fairy tale. She said, "What's your heart's desire?" And everything she has said, the culture the civilization wants to tell us what to want. You should want to win the lottery. You should want to go on a cruise. You should take a trip to the Caribbean or to Disneyland. You should have a new car. Should. And it's all about corporate agendas. What do you want? What do you want truly, madly, and deeply? And our entire community is organized around that simple question. What do you want? And what do people want? They want healing. They want love. They want intimacy. They want belonging. They want purpose. They want their meaning. And one of the things
They want beauty. They want art. They want
joy.
Dance and joy.
And one of the things we've seen in our community is people sort of walk the labyrinth of the heart. They begin to transform. And they begin, everyone in our community has experiences like this.
Yeah.
Because that's how Our Lady reassures us. They're like the signposts on the hiking trail that says, you're on the right track.
Well,
See, what you want is real. What you want matters.
What people will frequently say at our meetings, because we have meetings face-to-face and Zoom meetings, every day, a lot of them. And at a meeting, somebody will sometimes, share an experience, and another member will say, wow, that's got Our Lady's fingerprints all over it.
I love that.
Right? Because you feel it. Right?
Yeah, you can feel
We have
it.
We have a monthly newsletter. It's free. You can sign up for it on the website at wayoftherose.org. And part of the newsletter is miracle stories. People, so there's a woman in our community. She's very active in our community, very devoted, really active. And she and her husband went to Assisi. And who was staying in the hotel room across the hall from them but our next door neighbors? Like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, you know what I mean?
So she sends us a picture with Kerri and Barbara in it. And we're looking at, so what are we even looking at? Doing sharing with Kerri and Barbara in Assisi. How does this happen? Right?
And one of the oldest depictions of the Great Mother is as a spider. She's a weaver.
I love that, because spider medicine is really big in my Cherokee ancestry, right? Talking about spiders and weaving the webs. And I feel like when you're going to be a sage in this life, Great Mother says, you need spider. You need to experience the results of your stories for a while and to learn how they work before, before spreading them really far and wide,
Yeah, spider medicine's powerful medicine.
Telling those stories is really something.
We think of ourselves as storytellers.
She also devours her webs, when she's like, oh, I'm done with this web. And I think there's a lot of webs on the planet people need to devour right now. Just let's just devour that whole web and like spin a new one, like spin a whole.
Well, Kerri, we talk a lot about Kali and people, and the Dark Mother and that Dark Mother energy. She is womb and she's tomb. And
I love that. She's womb and she's tomb, you people. She's womb and she's tomb.
And the Hail Mary that we pray, the Hail Mary prayer, which is not, believe it or not, a church prayer, but a prayer that grew out of the traditions of folk people in Europe. And it's a prayer that takes you from the womb to the tomb, from birth to death. And it's a reminder that she births all of us and she takes us back, and then she rebirths all of us. And she's constantly, and so, one of the things, Clark and I experienced is when all of this really kind of revved up for us and the lady began appearing and speaking to Clark. First of all, our daughter became very sick. And we spent I was a doctor's daughter. I thought, you go to the best guy in New York, you get the top, you spend the money, you get the diagnosis, you get the medicine, we'll get you all better. And we spent all our money going to all the doctors. And we took out a home loan and we maxed out our credit cards and we got in trouble with our taxes trying to find doctors who could help our kid. And no one could tell us what was the matter. All they could tell us was something's the matter and we don't know what.
And then we both lost our jobs on the same day.
This is the tomb part, the end of the old life.
And we were taken out of the economy of money radically. We had nothing but prayer. We had a sick kid.
No money,
and prayer. And slowly Our Lady showed us that everything we wanted, we could pray about. And we all learned to pray.
Yeah, that all could be healed and that, all could be set right.
But it had to be done one step at a time with prayer.
Yeah. And we had to learn to trust her and really hold her hand.
And she did, and she, like sometimes like people think, I think, oh, I want to meet my beloved. I'm going to pray to meet my beloved. You better know how to pray if you're going to meet your beloved, because, oh my God, you need prayer for a relationship, right? You need to know how to navigate the tough stuff.
Especially need prayer for a life-changing relationship.
A life-changing.
People pray for their soulmate and they, I want to say, well, that's great. I hope you find him or her or they but just be ready, because if you meet your soulmate, your soul's going to have to come fully online.
Or people pray for healing and they don't even like, I think in the beginning when we first started prayer, like, I hope my daughter heals. I had no idea what healing involved. Like, I had
Mhm.
what a journey that was going to be, that was going to leave our entire family transformed.
Yeah.
It's called an
Now,
initiation. I think prayer is actually when you ask for your heart's desire, you're really being initiated, because whatever you're asking for is a bid for power. It's like saying, I would like to serve in this way. I would like to shine in this way. I would like to, you know, be this kind of gift. And in order to be that, you've got to become it. So it's like a journey, the
and
answer is
sometimes,
yes, but you've got to walk the steps, right?
I'll never forget my daughter. She got a compound fracture in college on her foot. She broke two bones that pierced the skin, and then it got infected. And she is allergic to she was allergic at that time to all antibiotics for a lot of mistreatment during her illness. And so they didn't know what to do. And they brought in this wound specialist. And this guy was like something out of a Civil War movie.
And
And
he said you don't usually see injuries like this outside of something like the Civil War. And he said we're going to have to use a Civil War technique to heal it if we can't use
and we can't use
antibiotics.
it. So what he did is and she couldn't take any pain medicines. He had to dig out all the diseased, infected skin,
Oh
cut it
my
out of her.
God. That's
And then he
awful.
stuffed
Stuffed it
the
with seaweed.
And twice a day he would come in and take out the infected skin,
And the
stuff it with
seaweed,
seaweed, and it had to heal from the bottom up. They
from
kept
the
her in the
inside
hospital
out.
while they did
Yeah.
this.
Had to
And
heal from the inside out.
and what I realized was healing is sometimes a terrifying journey.
Yeah.
Healing isn't like abracadabra, you feel better. Healing means we're going to go down to the bone and clean out the infected skin.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the ancestors in the next interview, but the bone is the
Yes.
ancestors, the bone in the teeth. I mean, that's as
Bone
deep
and
as it
stone,
gets.
bone and
So
stone.
Yeah.
I know on my path I've gone to the annual prayer ceremony, the top of Quemado, and prayed, to the mountain, prayed to Tenoncin, and asked for what I really, really want, right? And witnessed by everybody. And some of the things I asked for, are pretty big, because that's the calling of my heart. And as a result, there's been big initiations. There's been, I prayed for my whole family system to be healed, from my divorce. And well, now that has definitely been quite an interesting journey of healing all of that stuff.
My heart goes out to you, Kerri.
I know.
My heart
I
goes
prayed
out.
all these really open-hearted, innocent things, thinking, well, of course I want everyone to be 100%. And I prayed, I want to be 100% love. I've prayed things like this. And as a result, I get what I asked for. It just, I've learned that I'm always getting what I asked for. It's just that this is the way I must be led in order to receive what I asked for. I mean, you asked to be 100% love. What's going to happen? All the not love is going to have to be transformed into love. And so every single place I judge, and all my opinions and all my shadows and expectations, all of that gets to be loved. That's 100% love, so I don't get to skip steps.
Yeah, speaking of steps, Our Lady often, Our Lady loves 12-step spirituality. And a couple of times she has said that, they're talked about that this is very deep, very old wisdom. People call them the steps, but really they go back much, much further and much deeper into our history as a species, this basic wisdom. And she often says that, you can't plan 2 or 3 steps ahead, because then I can't lead you. If you've already decided how you're going to get your heart's desire and exactly where it is and that you have to get it, she says, then you're already, 4 or 5 steps ahead of me, and I can't guide you. But if you take the next right step, then I can guide you to the next right step after that, and the next right step after that, and I will take you to where you want to go.
And that's how I've learned to trust her. I sometimes say, in the beginning, I felt like when I started with prayer, like it was so hard for me to take my hands off the steering wheel. I got it. I'm going to drive. I know where we're going. I got this. And then to get sitting in the passenger seat was really hard. But I was still like reaching over to grab the steering wheel. And then I'd get in the back seat and I realized I'm still trying to over control everything.
I'm a backseat driver.
Me too. Well, I realized I have to get in the trunk of the car. And
I have to run along behind it.
Here's the thing is that she says, this road we're on, this place we're headed, you don't really want to go there and you don't want to be on this road. I'm going to stop the car. We're going to get out. We're going to walk through the woods. We're going to be in a swamp. I know, don't worry about the swamp. It's all right. I've got you. Don't even look at the alligators. I've got you. And I know you're getting a little dirty. We're going to get through this. And I'm taking you somewhere you've dreamt of going.
Yeah.
You've longed. And I've seen this, you know, I pray your family is doing well. You know, we've prayed for family healing, and it's been a journey of discovery. And now, you know, our daughter's 31. She lives 5 minutes from us. Our son is 29. It's his birthday Sunday, and he lives 5 minutes from us. And everybody pops in and out of each other's houses. And if you had told me 15 years ago, this is where we would be, I would have wept.
Yeah.
And that's where she brought us. That simple miracle.
It's true. And it looks really messy along the way. Like the steps that we have to move through look really messy and looks like it's a retrograde. It's opposite. It's like, wait a second, this is going the opposite way. I did not ask to go here. And because we want to go in a straight line. We want to just go step 1, step 2, step 3 in a straight line. And she wants to go in spirals and circles and like, you know, Nautilus and everything else. So it's
you know, I've learned to
fun.
ask Kerri. It's a hard question, but sometimes, you know, something will happen. And I go, oh my gosh, why is this happening? This horrible thing.
It's the wrong question.
And it's the wrong question. And the question is, how is this clusterfuck, excuse me, the answer to my prayer?
Yeah.
Like somehow this thing that I did not order off the menu is actually going to get me where I need to go.
It's actually taking me where I want to go.
And see, the thing is that, you know, it's like, right, when it lights you up with joy and you did not even see it coming. That just happened to me yesterday. I opened my email. I saw an invitation to a show that I don't want to say anything about it yet because I'm still honoring and holding it sacred. But like, I was like, what? Really? That could happen for me? And I thought, okay, that's cool. Let me go look. And so I actually went to ChatGPT to see how would this interview work out. And it was like, this would be great matchup. And I was like, okay, I didn't see myself that way. You know, like I didn't see me that way, but she sees me that way. And she went, okay, this sister and this sister need to get together. And like, wow. Now all of a sudden I'm like, this is the best thing ever. This is like, I hit the jackpot and I'm so excited. I mean, but this is like today's yes. Right. And so if we can let go, like that could happen every day. And we got to be willing to do the work, like, because that's the thing, there's no bypassing. And I feel like a lot of people really like the high, and we've gotten used to the dopamine hits from all the technology, but we're not really like, are we really going to be present with the things that make us uncomfortable? And I feel like that's what happens in prayer too.
One of the great deep teachings of the Rosary is it's simple enough that a child of 6 years old can learn to pray it. We have kids who come to our Rosary circles and they can pray it as well as any adult.
We have kids who lead
a Rosary circle. It's easy. It's simple. Anyone can learn it in 5 minutes. It's no fancy technology. However, they're the beads, and then they're the mantra. The mantras are these prayers, these ancient prayers. And then there is a tradition in the Rosary of something called mystery practice. And these are connected to the Mediterranean mystery cults. And they're very, very old traditions. And there are 3 sets of mysteries. The mysteries are like wells that you go to drink from that are bottomless, filled with bottomless wisdom for every moment of your life. And there were the Eleusinian mysteries, the Dionysian mysteries, and all of these mysteries came condensed into the mysteries of the Rosary. And in fact, are derived right from them. And the mysteries take you through the mysteries of birth and joy. And then they take you through the mysteries of death and sorrow. Mm-hmm. And you have to walk the mysteries of death and sorrow. You walk the mysteries of joy and birth, but you can't not stand at the foot of the cross. You can't not enter the tomb at the end of the mysteries. The only way you get to the third set of mysteries, which are the mysteries of birth and resurrection and
Yep.
miracle and renewal, is by walking through the sorrow and bearing witness. You can't turn your eyes from the horrors of this planet. You can't turn your eyes to the people stuck in solitary confinement in one horrible cell and, you know, in the world. You can't look at the people being bombed, the children starving to death. You're being asked to bear witness, and you can bear witness when you have that resilience of joy within you, and you realize you're not in charge. She's in charge. You know, Tanansen, who you love, and who Clark and I said, you know, she appeared at the end of the worst genocide in ecocide. The beginning of the worst genocide in human history and ecocide. We forget that it was also ecocide. So many species went extinct with the arrival of the Europeans in the North American continent that we can hardly map them all. And she appears, as Clark has written.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about that yet, but I mean, it's in the book, but I would love if you want to touch on it, that would be fantastic.
Well, you know, as Perdita mentioned, I was raised, you know, a Southern Protestant Christian, but I pretty much rejected that there was so much, it was so shot through with sexism and racism, you know, that by the time you know, I got to be like a teenager, I was asking uncomfortable questions in Sunday school class.
How many more?
Well, no, my dad came to me one day and he said, my dad, who had insisted I get up and shine my shoes every Sunday morning, put on a suit and go to church my whole life. My dad came into my room one Sunday morning when I was about, I want to say 14 or 15, and said, you know, son, I've decided that you're old enough to decide for yourself whether or not you want to go to church. And I felt like, who are you and what have you done with my father? Because I knew that he totally wanted me to go to church, but I realized that the week before I had demanded of the Sunday school teacher, a used car salesman and his wife, that they show me where in the Bible it said that blacks and whites should not marry. Because believed that was a sin.
But to go back to Tanansen and to get us back to the
but I'm getting you. Yeah. So you know, I just completely bailed out of that. Ultimately became Buddhist. I left Buddhism. I didn't really know where to go. I became spiritually promiscuous after I left Zen. I just studied everything. I taught myself the Rosary just because I was learning everything. And
I mean, he went and studied with rabbis. He went and studied with Sufi masters. I know, you know, he wouldn't show up after I sent him out to pick up the Chinese food, and it turned out he'd gone up to the Orthodox monastery and was up there praying with the monks.
I like to wander.
I didn't know where he was going to go.
I'd go out to get milk, and I'd end up at an Orthodox prayer service. You know? So anyway, but I was on a teaching trip to California in the Southwest. And I got to Taos, New Mexico, and you know, this little tiny prop plane just dropped me off there to teach a weekend workshop. And from the moment I arrived, I saw this young Mexican girl. That's the only way I knew to describe her. I had no idea who she was.
Know who she was.
Just this image of her, and she was everywhere. She was the little, you know, the image in the little, you know, scented, you know, pine fresh scent dangling from the cab driver's rear view mirror. She was on a poster, you know, at the convenience store. She was on the calendar behind the checkout count, you know, the check-in counter at the hotel. Everywhere I went, I saw her. And finally, after a couple of days of this, I was just like, who is this girl? I had no idea she was the Virgin Mary. I didn't know anything. And I saw this statue. Finally, there was this beautiful statue, you know, sort of a relief, sort of carved into a building. And I saw her one day, and this woman who looked very sort of scholarly was just coming out of her house. And I said, "Who is this?" And she said, "Oh, that's Tonantzin." You know, she says that's, you know, the name they gave her. Guadalupe, you know, the original name, you know, sounds like Guadalupe, which is what they called her. And they said, yes. And she said, well, she's the Virgin Mary. Duh.
But she's what we call a syncretic.
Yeah.
What she is, and what's so interesting is she, of course, is the great mother goddess of the Aztec peoples, right? And she is also the Virgin Mary. She's both, both
Yeah.
and neither, not she. And she appears pregnant, and that's one of the things. And and for Juan Diego, who was 54 when he saw her, he had seen all of his people destroyed. We can't even imagine the atrocities he saw, the cruelties and the violence. He'd seen so many of his family members and friends murdered and tortured. He'd seen so many women he loved raped. He had experienced a violence we can hardly imagine.
And so when this young girl, hears the sound of birds singing at this mountaintop,
And says,
the
"Am I
same
not here
mountaintop
to
you've
be
been to.
mother?"
Yeah, and when she says, "I've come to heal the sorrows of your people and comfort you," this was a really profound promise, but she made good on.
And she comes and she appears pregnant, so like so many of the young women who were pregnant around him with babies they, felt very complicated about because they came from horrible rapes, and there she is saying, we will rebirth the world.
Yeah.
And she shows up in moments of calamity and moments of crisis to
Virgin.
say, you don't think I can't rebirth the world?
Yeah. Rwanda, Bosnia, Fatima before the
Civil War.
Well, before the Civil War, but also before the
flu.
pandemic. Yeah.
She often shows up in moments of terrible crisis. In the beginning, when she started to show up for Clark, we thought of her as Our Lady of Climate Change, but we've gotten more modest and deeper, I think, because she's just Our Lady of Woodstock. She's the lady of this mountain, this land, this earth, these hemlock trees, these bears. Their bears sometimes go sleep at her shrine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we've seen
it's beautiful.
Deer give birth.
Yeah, deer come to give birth, right in front of her at the shrine.
And one of the things that I find that I've done with my partner and that I have my students do is to reclaim the land for her. It's to wake it back up and to claim it as sacred. This is sacred space and this is alive and this is
no
beautiful.
Land that is not sacred, that is not her. Yeah. She said, you don't think I'm real? She said, go outside, pick up your foot and put it down. And if you feel something under your foot, that's me.
Yeah, and go sit with your back against a tree. I mean, just really for like 30 minutes, you'll feel so much better.
Clark and I sometimes say our subject is the dark, the dirt, and the dead. And they're all the same thing. And they're all her.
But it's like the point of acknowledging it, it's like, I mean, that's the sacred reciprocity of Aini, of right relationship, is acknowledging life, acknowledging her existence, acknowledging the planet, acknowledging the trees and all that they do for us, really just getting into an attitude of gratitude about all that there is supporting us. And yeah, we're going through tough times.
Well, here's the thing about the gratitude. Support. You don't have to invent it. If you start asking her for stuff and she starts answering your prayers, you'll feel grateful. Yeah. And your gratitude will be so profound that you will want we've forgotten what devotion is in our culture. Mm-hmm. People used to be devoted to the earth. And devotion means to bring our vow down, not up, but down to our feet, and to lay our body. People used to prostrate themselves against the earth to feel her body against their heart.
And yeah, I used to lie belly to belly with the ground, and it felt good, just to feel like I put my head, like my forehead right on the ground and my heart and everything, just all the way, just like I'm putting my third eye into the ground.
So ask for what you need. Sometimes, the people, and I'm sure people have seen those pictures of the rosary beads confiscated at the border of people who've crossed with nothing but prayer. Let me tell you, those people know how to pray. People who have nothing know how to pray. And when you have nothing, you learn to have faith. And that faith you'll know she's real. So pray for what you need. If you need a couch or a car, pray for a couch or a car. Start where you are. Sometimes, and we mock those kinds of prayers. But if you need a car to drive to work, to do a job, to feed your children, that's not a minor prayer.
I'm a huge fan of medieval miracle stories, right? Miracle stories involving the Virgin Mary, of which there are thousands and thousands.
We love reading them.
And we would read them aloud to one another. So and they were like the short stories of their day. Some of them were very entertaining, some of them were funny, but they all have one thing in common, which is that Jesus rarely appears. God is rarely mentioned in them. It is the Virgin Mary, and people go to her with their heart's desire. It could be anything from my husband got, imprisoned, by the local lord for not paying his taxes. I need him to be freed. I fought in a battle and I have an iron, spearhead still lodged in my shoulder that's separating. It's going to kill me. Need some relief. There's this very funny story about a very, very pampered rich lady who has a starling that she keeps in a cage that sings to her, and it escapes.
She's just distraught.
She's distraught.
And she's complaining so much. All the servants,
the servants
are out of their mind.
They're out of their mind because they're just scraping by, trying to just survive. And this very pampered, very rich, like lady is like going on and on about her starling. And they just say, I can't take it anymore. So they go and they pray to the Black Madonna of Rocamadour. And the starling comes right back in, goes to the cage, and closes the door itself with its beak.
For their prayers.
For their prayers. Just give us a break.
Yeah, just give us a break.
But we start where we are. We start with our necessity. We start sometimes, in our rosary circles, and they're, we said before, they're all free. Everyone's welcome at everyone. We have a schedule. We have about 10 or 12 a day. They all have slightly different flavors, but everyone's welcome at all of them. And the question is, what do you want? What are you praying for? What do you want? What do you need? What's your heart's desire? And sometimes it's, help me get through this cancer treatment. And sometimes I've lost my way and forgotten what it is, what I want. I've forgotten my dreams. Help me remember my dreams.
Yeah.
And you'll hear both. And
you can
start
anywhere.
Where you are.
Start where you are.
It's like a labyrinth where you start with, that's what I want. Let me even remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot. And sometimes, what did you? There's no prayer that Our Lady can't answer.
I mean, this is a very, very common trajectory for somebody coming into our fellowship. Person will arrive, and sometimes they're in the middle of a health crisis, like they found out they have cancer and have to undergo treatment. There's some urgent need, often, not always, but often. A lot of times it's financial. They come in and they've suffered a real financial setback. So what they pray for is money. And oftentimes they get it, like something happens to give them, Our Lady will meet you where you are. So somehow they get a little money or whatever. But if they keep coming to meetings, like over a period of weeks or months or years, like after a year, you'll hear them not praying about money anymore, but they're getting money. Because what they're praying for, they say, I just really want a job I love. If I've toiled for years, not feeling like I could ever get ahead, and I was so bored or I was so mistreated, and I just really want meaningful work. They find meaningful work, and suddenly, financially, they're very healthy. So they learn to pray, not for what the culture tells them to pray for, which is that money is the solution to everything, but for what they really want, right?
So I'll tell you a synchronous story, and I don't think you've gotten into it in my book yet. It's not in Way of the Rose, it's in Take Back the Magic. But just as we finished Way of the Rose, as we were putting the finishing touches on our book, our editor in New York, big fancy New York editor, said, I want to take you guys out to lunch and talk to you about the book. We're going to do some revisions. I'm like, oh, terrifying. Lady came and she said, before the meeting next week, you need to find a statue of me and create a shrine to me where I appeared to Clark. And we're like, what? We've got 3 days. Oh my God. Really? That's it. So we don't know what to do. We don't have a lot of money. We think we're going to have to get one of those ugly bathtub Marys. The bathtub Marys, the Mary in the half shell, the little modest Mary looking.
Little concrete Mary.
Concrete Mary. Yeah.
Concrete Mary.
And she's looking down at her feet, and she looks very virginal and very obedient. And
Valiant Virgin.
It's what I call them. I call them Valiant Virgins.
Yeah.
So we find this place. We know there are a bunch of them about an hour south of here, and we call up to see if the lady's open. We figure we'll go get one. Ugh. It's all we can afford. Ugh. And the woman says, oh, I can't open the shop today. I have a relative that's sick, and I have to be out of town. But there's another place an hour north of you might try. They have some Marys.
Bathtub Mary.
So we call the place an hour north of us. And I kid you not, the man, when we
Yeah.
call, says, "Oh, I'd love to open for you today, but a relative of mine is sick and I have to shut down the." And then then that was
We
that
were
spook.
We got that
Yes.
spooky
Yeah.
text.
We didn't know where to go.
We had
So
no
we
sense.
started driving
We started
around.
looking for yard sales
thought we
and
could-
junk shops, and we were just driving. And we take her seriously when she tells us something like this. You cannot go in to meet with your editor until you
Find
find the statue and pay for it.
Okay, so we're driving around and we come by in this like local rural highway. There's this place with hideous Italian statues and like giant
Italian
fat
marble
Buddhas
statues
for like
fat Buddhas.
rich, tasteless people, right? And we think
Right.
maybe there's a Madonna here.
We don't. we think that's the only place we've seen where there's statues, right?
So
It's
we
the
go
only
in,
statue
we
in.
drive in, and I mean, the stuff is the ugliest stuff I've ever seen in my life. Giant goldfish, like goldfish as big as this
Goldfish.
room. that you put by your
Giant
boat.
marble goldfish shooting water out of their mouth.
Okay, we're looking around, and then we walk out in back of the building.
No. So we're walking through. They have an indoor section too. We walk through that. And there's nothing there. A couple of statues, maybe religious statues. Not what we're looking for. And we're about ready to turn and leave. And Perdita says, "What's that?" And there's a door at the end of the indoor warehouse section.
It's always a
And
door.
It seems to be a
It's always
jar.
a door. We walk
It
through the
seems
door.
to be a jar.
You
It's
gotta
the
open
back
it.
door, right? And I said, "I don't know. Maybe it's open." We open this door, and in this back yard where they clearly have stored statues in the past is one statue, and it is the statue of Our Lady of Woodstock that sits at the shrine
But here's the
today.
thing: she's the exact size as the lady was when Clark saw her.
Yeah,
She's a cross between Tonantzin and Kuan Yin.
yeah.
Okay, she's holding what looks like a mala, except it's got 50 beads on it, like a
Like
rosary.
a medieval rosary.
Like a medieval rosary. She's got two gold feet at her, like Our Lady of
Two-
Lords, but her face,
Two roses.
and
at her feet.
we fall in love with her. Like I hugged her, and she has these granite hands, and they hold your heart when you hug her.
Yeah.
So we go up to this bored girl looking through Instagram at the checkout and say, "How much is that statue in the back?" And she names an exorbitant price.
Yeah, there's no way we can afford
And we
it.
said, "I'm sorry."
Even if we spent every dime we had,
We said, "We can't afford
we
this."
couldn't afford it.
And she said, "Well, I'll call my boss and see what could you pay." And Clark gets out his
I
phone
get out my phone
and he mentions the amount we have, all the money we have.
all the money we have in our bank account.
That's it.
That's it.
And we tell her.
Everything we have to
And
live
at that
on.
moment, our phone rings and it's the original lady. And she says, "Oh, my relative's all better if you want to come in and buy a bathtub, Mary." And so we get on the road
Get in the
and I start to cry because I don't want a bathtub, Mary. I want this Mary.
Yeah, this is clearly the statue that Our Lady wanted us to find for the shrine, right?
Like, but we can't afford it. What are we going to do? The phone rings. It's the girl at the shop. She said, "My boss will give it to you for the price you named and he'll deliver it to."
For free.
So we go back. We write a check for every penny in our bank account. We have no credit cards. We have no savings account. We have no other money. We have no way to buy groceries on the way home. No way to pay our mortgage. Nothing.
No way to get gas.
No, even to get gas.
Yeah.
And we know no way to get to the city to see our editor. We're like, what are we going to
Right,
do?
what are we gonna
This is
do?
crazy. It's a fairy tale moment. So we write the check
Give her the check.
and we go kiss the lady and say, "We love you. We found you."
We found it.
And then we go home feeling crazy. And as we pull into our driveway, the mail has been delivered.
And I look in there, and there is, I kid you not, a royalty check for a book I had written and published 15 years earlier that I had even forgotten could possibly ever earn money.
It never earned money.
It never earned any money. A royalty check for foreign rights in the exact amount
To the penny.
to the penny we paid for.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's amazing.
The shrine is open 24/7. People come from all over the world to visit the
Yeah.
lady.
Yeah.
And she is so beautiful. People love her so much. You'll come out and you'll see people just hugging her. But here's the thing about the synchronicities. It's that moment of faith when we wrote the check for all that we had. We fell in love and we took a risk.
Yeah,
And we just said, "Lady,
that's it.
you're going to solve this for us. You're going to have to help us eat.
You'll have
You're going to have
you'll have to make good on this because we have no
We
idea
have no idea
how
how
this
that
part
works."
works.
It's like characters in a fairy
Yeah.
tale.
Yeah.
And it means that our credit rating isn't very good, but our faith is fantastic.
We have a great faith rate. Faith ratings are high.
Faith ratings are high.
Credit
But yeah.
ratings, not so much.
And people come from all over the world now. And they come, it's so once Clark was out there and there were 2 van loads of
People from Guatemalans. They barely spoke English, and there were like at least 3 or 4 generations. There was a very old couple of very old grandmothers and grandfathers and some babies that people were carrying, and they were all praying at the shrine. And I went up and I said, "Oh, are you members of Way of the Rose?" And somebody stepped forward who spoke some English and said, "No, what is that?" And we said, "Oh, well, that's our Rosary Fellowship, and you're welcome to join and all that." And I said, "Well, how did you hear about us?" And she says, "Oh, we heard about the apparition and the miracles." They had driven from New Jersey 2.5 hours to get to the shrine. They brought their whole family there because they were in some kind of crisis, and they had heard that Our Lady was granting miracles in Woodstock, so they'd come.
I could tell you nothing, but like I said, our newsletter has miracle stories of the Lady every week.
That's so beautiful. Gosh, I hope this is encouraging everybody, because it's kind of that Hail Mary time on the planet right now. And
Right?
It really is.
We need a Hail Mary pass, don't we?
That's it.
Yeah, it's like full of grace, please.
Catch it,
Forgive
lady.
us our sins.
In Our Lady of Notre, our St. Patrick's in New York City, she's amazing. She holds her hands like this. It looks like she's about to catch a basketball. And when we say she's about to catch that football, throw it to her. She'll catch it.
Yeah, she looks like she's like a wide receiver. Yeah. Our Lady of New York. Yeah.
What I love is that you felt it in your heart and you knew that was the one. And it's kind of like, are you going to give me everything? Are you going to really give it all? And trust. Like, who's running this whole matrix anyway?
The matrix, by the way, is mater.
Yeah, it comes from.
It's from the word is mother. It's mother web.
Yeah.
It means the mother. And the matrix is the mother. The mother is the weaver, the spinner, the connector. And she's the great mater. And she'll make it happen. She said once in one of her messages, she speaks publicly on the 16th of every month, and the messages can all be found on our website. And again, we share them in the newsletter. But she once said, "I am going to take away everything you think you love, but secretly hate, and give to you what you've always wanted."
Yeah.
I'm going to take away everything you seem to love and secretly loathe, and give to you everything you've always wanted. Yeah. And that's that taking away, giving,
and that it's a releasing of the identity, however we're attached to how we think it has to be happy, because we've had to form those plans and ideas because we thought we had to do it ourselves, and not understanding that we're being guided the whole way, and we were the whole time, even when we were completely unconscious to it. It's kind of fun that way.
Often, when you talked about gratitude, and when you realize how much the mothers of the earth love you, you just feel overwhelmed. Yeah. Gratitude happens because if we knew how much she loved us, we'd collapse in gratitude.
Actually, you're reminding me of and we're going to wrap up just in a minute, but you're reminding me of a medicine journey I took where she wanted me to remember my choice to come here at this time on the planet. And so I was brought back to this soul, the soul agreement where she asked me to come and be in service. And it was like this love poured out of my heart. And in that moment I said, "Of course, anything for you." And then I showed up here.
I know.
Yeah.
And then here I am. It's like my heart bursting open. "Of course, anything you need, anything you ask." And then here we are. And it's been a journey to get around to being, aligned with my choice. But also it's been beautiful.
There's the idea of the Bodhisattva in Buddhism. And, I grew up without religion, but I grew up in a religious era. And I never understood heaven and hell. It never made any sense to me, because who are these people who are enjoying heaven while people are suffering in hell? if you were a good person, wouldn't you be going down into hell with soup and warm compresses and back rubs? Like, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Who wants to be with those assholes up in heaven?
Aren't you supposed to be hanging out with the homeless people and the people that are struggling with
Exactly.
mental illness and challenges and being their
Right?
friends?
Exactly. Like, yeah, right? Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
And that's what Jesus did. So I'm pretty sure
Talk
that's
about-
what we're
Exactly.
supposed to do.
Exactly.
I hear Christians talking about the rapture, and I say, if you're not giving your golden ticket to the homeless guy on the corner, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. But it's not always like rescuing either. There's like this component of like, give what you're like, do what you're told. And I hate to say this, but like, do as you're instructed. Like, there's the wisdom that comes through, and it might not jive with your ideas about how it's supposed to be. And then you just do it because that's what is coming through.
Well,
And there's medicine in that.
She also said in her messages, I've planted in each of your hearts the seeds I need to have grow to regreen the world.
Yeah.
So when we begin to follow our heart's desire, we begin to show up in the ways she needs us to show up. We're not all supposed to do the same thing. We're not all supposed to be doing her work. She's got a big picture in mind, and she's got little jobs.
Got a lot of us working right now on the planet. So.
Exactly. and each of us, but if we show up and follow our heart, we will be in that alignment with her. And then, then we can do what she needs us to
and
do.
Respect everyone's journey, because everyone's on their own journey with her. And she's told me your lessons are not, my son particularly, your lessons are not his lessons, and his lessons are not your lessons. So please be respectful and don't judge him. It's like,
for me, Kerri, with my son, we can do a whole session
nails
on
a chalkboard forward with that one. But yeah, I love him so much. I love both of them.
How old is he?
I have one that's 26 and one that's about to be 23 in October. So I was blessed with 2 sons. I asked for a daughter. She gave me 2 sons. She's like, you need sons.
Let me tell you, you know what? Here's the thing. They fill up whatever container they are with worry. But you and I could talk prayer.
We could have a whole episode on that.
Every mother I know knows how to pray, because what else can you do? There's nothing else. I don't know how you could navigate motherhood without prayer.
No, 6 cars later and about 10 cell phones.
Tell me about it.
3 total cars.
Like, what the heck, guys? So we love you. We love you so much. We hang out with you all the time, even though. And yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun being a mom, you guys, especially at this time on the planet. And no, I'm not here to like bake you cookies every single time. Sometimes the answer is not that. Sometimes the answer is a little bit of like medicine,
Well, the mysteries of the Rosary are all about the mysteries of what it means to be a mother, and at one point, the 4th joyous mystery, there are 5 joyous mysteries, and the 4th is Mary is headed into the temple with a newborn baby, right? And 2 seers recognize her as the mother of God. They say, like, wow, you're the mother. You're the great mother. And that's kind of cool, right? And she's sort of like, oh, I am the great mother, great. And then they say, a sword is going to pierce your heart. But isn't that true for every parent?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like that's a mystery that's particular to Mary, but it's also true of every parent. This child is going to break your heart. This child is going to grow your heart, break your heart wide open, teach you what it means to have a heart, and
to hang in there with it, even though when it gets uncomfortable and you can't fix it, like, because you're not meant to fix it, so
right.
Yeah, that's the real way.
Forgive us for the 3rd member. We are babysitting today.
And Puppy is like, hey, you guys have had your time. So like, I was good for the whole time. And now I'm telling
very good. He's been very good.
We appreciate you for being so good. So is there anything else? I know we're going to have you back on the show, Perdita. Clark, what a pleasure to meet you and to hear your voice. Both of you. I mean, like I said, you guys, the Audible on this is so fantastic. Like, it's well worth it to go listen to it. Just to hear the voices of these beautiful, blessed beings, plus their daughter. It's like when she's speaking, it's almost like Denante could totally be just speaking right through her. It's really beautiful. Is there anything else you want to share on our way out? I'll put links to your community and
come sit with us. Yeah. Everyone's welcome. You don't have to join. There are no obligations. It's just dues or fees. There are no dues or fees. No one takes attendance. There are no entrance exams or interviews. There's nothing except friendship and prayer. And so we love to pray with friends. Come join us.
Yeah,
I think I will, and hopefully you all will too. That sounds great. Let's do it. Okay, so Thank you, everybody. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast episode out anywhere that you feel like it would benefit other human beings on the planet right now who are probably in some need of something like this. And so please share it out. And here come your kisses. You guys can join me if you like, but I like to give kisses at the end. So here they come, everybody. Love you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being with us all the way to the very end to get those kisses. And here they come. Love you all so much. And we'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now. If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken, Nectar Show. Take a sip from the drip of nectar, from the source of who you are. Soul Nectar Show. Yeah, yeah.